Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chibhubhubhu. I like to say ladies and gentlemen every time we start this show because I assume there are other people out there other than our wives that enjoy the sport of football and want to listen to us crazy people talk about it. But today it also has a special meaning for us because this is the first episode in the history of Chibhubhubhu where we have a lady on the show. And not only do we have a lady on the show, but it is also the first episode that we get to interview someone. So we are very excited about the opportunity and we're looking forward to the conversation that's about to happen. But let me introduce you to our interview. Today we have on our show Nozibusiso Sibiya, who is a journalist, sports journalist based out of South Africa. And today's guest has built one of the most impressive CVs in African sports media. She's reported pitchside at one of world football's biggest rivalries, the Klassiker between Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. She contributed to Manchester United's official yearbook as the only African-based journalist for the 2019-2020 edition, moderated football and sports business summits across Africa and Europe, and has become a respected voice in the mentoring of the next generation of sports journalists. So, Nozi, we are so excited to have you on the show today. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Tate, and thank you so much. Oh, wow, that resume is shocking. It's always weird when you do things and then you're like, okay, I'm done, next. And then when someone reads to you or talks to you and says you've done this and that, you're just like, oh my God, have I?
Yeah, I didn't have to like add things that you haven't done. It's very impressive, and we're so glad that you will take your time out to chat with us. And then we have a couple other people on the panel, and by a couple I mean quite a few. We got Taf Hove, we've got Ushe, we've got Nyasha, and we've got Tendakai representing all sorts of Premier League teams. And we're gonna get started today with our favorite section, which is the winner of the week. So we know it's still preseason. There's not a lot of things happening, but who do you think has won this week? Whether it's a signing, a goal that was scored, or anything like that.
I think the winner of this week for me is definitely got to be the Premier League. I think the transfers that have happened, the lack of a clear idea on who's going to win the Premier League, because you look at City, they're not looking that great. So I think I'm looking forward to this season because anyone could take it. So that's good for the Premier League.
Okay. I like that. We're going to have a show where we talk about our hot takes, but this is not the time today. Ushe, who's your winner of the week?
Thank you. I think my winner of the week is Vinny Jr. He actually made Arsenal believe that he was going to sign for them. And then he got his new bumper, new contract, at the same time making Arsenal think that a chance to sign him. And then in the end, he just goes and says, guys, I'm just getting a new contract and everything, and the awareness that's there. So I think as a United fan, I enjoyed watching deluded Arsenal fans. But I think for Vinny, he's actually got a nice new contract, which I think Madrid weren't willing to give him before. So I think he's played clubs to get so much money. So I think he's a happy guy. So that's the winner of the week for me, basically.
Okay. As an Arsenal fan, Tendakai, who's your winner of the week?
Okay, so my winner of the week is another guy who went to Real Madrid. I would say Yan Diomande, because personally, I know I've been saying this, I think, to Ushe and Nyasha earlier. I was with these guys earlier, and I was like, I don't understand how that kid's gone for that amount of money, because I don't watch that much Bundesliga, but the few snippets of him that I saw at the World Cup, I'm like, he was not great. And Nicolas Pepe, who is a washed man, according to me, came on as a sub for him and scored 2 goals. And a time that Ivory Coast went out, Ahmad then came on and changed the game. So maybe he was just having a bad tournament. As I said, I don't watch that much Bundesliga, but I've seen some clips and he looks decent. But the amount of money that he went for and the deal that he got, and Leipzig. So I guess I'll half and half it for him and for Leipzig. The amount of money that Leipzig got and for him to get that move. But now with Vinny staying, it's going to be interesting. I want to see how much game time he gets.
Yeah. Okay. And Yasha.
Interesting. Sorry. I wonder if there's anyone here who's interviewed him. I wonder if there's anyone on this panel.
Hey,
did you know anyone? Sorry.
Stop taking the thunder from my questions. Stop taking the thunder from my questions, man. We're getting there. Nyasha, who's your winner of the week?
Now, up until the kind mentioned your demand, but at the same time, I'll say football in general, in as much as it's a little bit one-sided, I would say football won, even though we are at the back end of different interests with what Infantino was trying to do. Quite a bit of time when we're offered lump sums. We're talking about we were today together with an official who actually is Zifa. And we all acknowledge that Infantino has actually poured a lot more money than any official has poured into African football. But at the same time, um, that that pouring of money then leaves us blind. Like we sell our souls for $40 million and then we're left behind.
Yeah.
But if we get our things together, it'll be great. But just that stopping of what he was trying to do with his deadlines, with his with his what do you yeah, you'll say deadlines. I'm looking for a more vulgar word, but I'm glad.
I don't want to bleep you.
Yeah, it was one of those like take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Here's $40 million and vote for me. Like when someone puts that in your face, as much as we have never seen that as a footballing footballing association, that would have gone a long, long, long way. And I think we saw it. I advised take the money, but be like it would do great, especially with our current administration. But football did win in as much as the driving force behind that win is very diabolical.
Yeah, that's great. Lwazi, who's your winner of the week? You got 20 seconds.
Gentlemen, I'm actually gonna agree with the Mac as well. I'm not gonna lie. What happened recently was like absolutely shocking, to be honest with you. But I won't lie. I'm gonna digress a little bit. Seeing the transfer that was done by Real Madrid in regards to the signings that they have, for me feels like a win. It's gonna be a bit off the mark, but that for me stands out there. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just gonna leave it right there, gentlemen.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Nozi, we're coming to you for most of this episode. So, do you want to give us a winner of the week, or do you want me to just start with the first question?
The winner of the week, I definitely want to give you the winner of the week, Tate. I think it was Yan Diamande. I've actually seen him play, and I think he's brilliant. I did see him during the FIFA World Cup, and I've actually interviewed him well. But I remember during the FIFA World Cup, I did say he wasn't having the greatest of tournaments. So it'll be interesting, obviously, to see how he plays in La Liga, especially if, as a player, you need to be able to handle pressure. So if he can't deal with the pressure of the World Cup, it's a bit concerning how he's going to handle a club like Real Madrid. But he did really well in the Bundesliga, which is why I think Real Madrid paid so much money for him. And another winner of the week for me was the women's AFCON with Cameroon obviously winning against defending champions Nigeria, and also South Africa 2022 champions also being, exiting in the quarterfinals. It just shows you that other African countries are working really hard to develop women's football on the continent. And it seems like South Africa and Nigeria are now being left behind, even though they were leaders in women's football. It is concerning, but it also gives me a lot of joy, especially seeing teams like your Malawi. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I love that transition because, we are recognizing it's usually a bunch of men on this podcast, and we have our first woman guest and talking about women's AFCON. I've seen a few of the highlights and have actually been like, oh man, the quality of the football is way up from where it started. But I want to ask you, what made you fall in love with the sport of football?
Well, I fell in love with football because my mom loves football and my grandmother loves football. Well, my mom knows football more than me. Like whenever we're watching football, she loves Pirates, Orlando Pirates. So she'll be like, okay, what is the formation today? Why is this one playing at the back and things like that?
Yeah.
And there was a time like when we used to have like bad load shedding in South Africa. And then there was this aunt of mine who lives on the other side of our area. So we used to walk there just to watch Bafana play with my mom because she really loves football. So that's why I love football.
So since your mom and your grandma were the ones that love football, was your first live footballing experience with them?
No, it wasn't, unfortunately, because I come from a village. So the football stadiums are like, I don't know, the Moses Mabhida Stadium is like 2 hours away from home.
Okay.
So I haven't taken my mom to the stadium yet.
Okay.
But my first experience was when I did my internship for a day. We volunteered for the PSL. The only reason I wanted to volunteer for the PSL was because I love Orlando Pirates. But
Yeah.
obviously, when you're a journalist, you get there and you're like, okay, I can't be biased and things like that. But yeah, that was my first live football experience. And Orlando Pirates actually lost. But yeah, story for another day.
Okay. So you didn't start right away with sports journalism. You worked for Cosmopolitan. So what made you transition from Cosmopolitan to football? Because those are fashion and football. I mean, football players are fashionable, but those things don't usually meld together.
Okay, I love fashion and then I love football. So I decided because I needed to do an internship in order to graduate, I just applied. Well, I was crazy when I finished, like when I was in third year. I remember Cosmopolitan was leading in South Africa at the time. So I just remembered the name and the surname of the editor of Cosmopolitan. And then I just guessed her email address. I think I did like three.
Wow.
Three
Okay.
tries or four. And then she got back to me and they were keen to have me on board. And I told her that I guessed her email address. And then she was like, okay, cool. Since you're so serious about working for Cosmopolitan. Well, at the time, I was also a model because I used to model just as a side hustle to make money, you know. And then, yeah, Cosmopolitan, you know, they had opportunities because I also reached out to Orlando Pirates and all the other clubs, but no one got back to me. Orlando Pirates said they were not hiring, which is funny because last year I had a meeting with the marketing manager of Orlando Pirates and we're actually talking about that. But yeah, I love fashion. I love writing about women's issues as well, which is what Cosmopolitan did. And then that's how I got into Cosmopolitan.
Okay, that's great. So tell me, as your journey has gone, how long have you been in the industry, and what when you look back, is there anything that you would change about how you got started?
There's nothing that I will change about how I got started because I feel like with Cosmopolitan magazine, it taught me how to write and it taught me how to interview people and just to look for stories anywhere else. And also just, you know, doing certain things that I was volunteering at in the football space. It gave me a lot of experience. And, you know, with, for example, working with the PSL, obviously as a volunteer and also working for Netball South Africa, I had a boss who worked for Netball South Africa. Well, his company was a client to Netball South Africa. We were doing social media, and he always after each session or tournament or anything, he always gave me advice and said I was going to be his boss in the next few years or whatever. Yeah. And I feel like that guy taught me how to stay in my lane. Well, he always said, stay in your lane. He taught me how to stay in your lane and also just to have a plan for your career. What do you want? What kind of football do you want to cover? Because also you can't be everywhere. So it's very intentional for me to cover women's football, the Bundesliga, as well as Paralympic sports.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, thinking about football, you know, the PSL specifically is a male dominated area of football, right? We're talking about you know, Orlando Pirates, Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns, those types of things. So what was that like entering into this male dominated sphere as a young journalist, as a young woman, trying to make a name for yourself and be taken seriously?
It was. Well, the men in the industry will obviously try to intimidate you, but I was raised by women. Like my grandmother has 8 kids, and then 5 of them are men. So I was raised around men. So I respect men. I've got a lot of respect for men, but they do not intimidate me at all.
Yeah, that's good.
They, it's just like, okay, you're my brother, you're my friend, or whatever. And obviously, when you get into the industry, a lot of people always think firstly, you don't know what you're talking about, or no matter how long you've been working in the industry, I still get asked to explain the offside rule or to name like 500 players, and I'm just like, guys, relax.
Yeah. They're always trying to take your card from you and go, if you don't know how to explain this thing, you okay. Yeah. So is there other moments like that make you feel like people want you to prove yourself more than they want your male colleagues to maybe prove themselves as football fans or football knowers, that type of thing?
Yes, I feel like a lot of men in South Africa, I'm going to say in South Africa, some of them, I just feel like they don't even know football, but because they are men, obviously they are working in the space because everyone trusts that they can do what they say they can do, because obviously men are supposed to love sports. Like sometimes even when I had an ex, oh my God, his name was Lwazi. I'm so sorry, Lwazi. But when I saw there was a Lwazi on the podcast, I was like, oh my God, what is happening? But thank God it's not him.
Yeah.
And he always used to say, whenever we're chilling with people and we're talking about football, he always used to say he used to watch football with his dad when Kaiser Chiefs was still Kaiser Chiefs, and then he stopped because, they're not doing so well. And I'm thinking, no, you do not stop watching football. No one ever... I mean, you're an Arsenal fan, you know this. No one ever stops watching football. Like, you watch it forever until
in my defense, I also stopped watching Liverpool. Just Brendan Rodgers, ask these guys.
But guys,
Joe Allen, my guys.
But guy, if you say you were watching football when you were like from the age of 7 to 10, and then when your father was no more, you stopped watching, I'm sorry, that's a lie. You just didn't like football. You just watched it like, you remember how we used to watch current affairs?
Yeah.
Just because your parents are watching
That's
it?
on TV. Yeah, it's on TV.
Exactly. But if he was to work in the sports industry, everyone will think he knows football more than me.
That's a very interesting thought. One of the things that one of the guys just pointed out is the majority of us, other than Lwazi, are from Zimbabwe, and it's impressive that you worked hard. The early bird got the worm, right? You tried out those email addresses and got in. In Zimbabwe, it's very hard for people to break in without connections. Is that something that's also prevalent in sports journalism, or is it just people recognize your hard work and go, this is the space that you can enter?
I feel like in Africa as a whole, it's just hard to get into anything without connections. And what I usually do is, I know a lot of people say LinkedIn have never helped them get anything, but what I usually do is, if I want to work, like in September, I'm going back to Rwanda to moderate at the Africa Sports Bees, and I connected with them via LinkedIn, because a lot of people on LinkedIn are just talking about work. And also with other African countries, what I've seen is they get so interested when you're a woman and you work in sports, and they just like, okay, let's see your CV or anything like that. And then if you are good, then they can to work with you. But yeah, it's definitely very hard to get anything without connection. So it's always better to build those relationships, even on LinkedIn. If you want to work with someone, just follow them and then comment here and there, and then you can reach out.
Yeah. And then the quality of your work will speak for itself after you connect with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in terms of the next generation, you mentor young women through SIGA Sports or SIGA Women, and then run sports journalism masterclasses. What is one piece of advice that you see yourself repeat over and over again as you talk to these younger women or are mentoring people?
I always say to people, you must just, when you're building a brand, you need to keep repeating yourself, and people get tired of that. But the reason why I ended up working with clients, even like with your Unilever, was because I kept talking about women's football and football development. And that was my thing on social media all the time. And my grandmother was born in 1938, guys. She doesn't know what content creation is, but she used to buy me airtime when I was unemployed to do that, because she was like, you know what, I believe in what you're doing. And that's how Shield, which is known as Rexona now, reached out to me, and they were like, we'd like to partner for content. Chelsea's coming to South Africa, things like that, because I was telling the same story. So even when you work in football, you need to know what your story is. Are you talking about football developments? Are you talking about women's football? And I'm not saying don't take the money. So if someone offers you money and it's a good gig or whatever, but just make sure that we know what you stand for. If you stand for women's football, stand for it. If you stand for a certain league, stand for it. If you write about football across the African continent, do it. Because even if that industry has a lot of people, but if you just say, I'm Nozibusiso and this is what I do, people are going to end up paying attention to you.
That's great. That's wonderful. I love that piece of advice. We're going to take it for ourselves. Let's talk about, your work, maybe reminisce a little bit about some things, but is there an assignment that you think of in your mind that still gives you goosebumps? Like, man, I can't believe I booked this gig, or I booked this interview, or I got to attend this event. Is there anything in your mind that gives you that?
I think it was definitely interviewing Vincent Company.
Oh, wow.
So I went to Germany and mine was playing Bayern Munich. So I interviewed Vincent Company, and a lot of Africans were angry because I asked him about Percy Tau in a Bayern Munich presser. But as a journalist, you always try to localize something, right?
Yeah.
Like if we interviewing someone in Zimbabwe doesn't care how Hurricane is, if we're being honest. But if you talk about a player in Zimbabwe, then they're going to listen, right? So that's what I did. And a lot of people were like, oh, why would you ask him about that guy, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, I think it was 6 months later, I saw him and I was doing a TV reporting at the De Classica. And I saw him and he recognized me and he was like, hey, how's Percy? And then a lot of journalists from Germany were just like, how does he know you? And I was like, oh my God, Vincent Company knows me.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That's another a little tip to think about, personalizing things as you're interviewing them. That makes
exactly
sense.
And also just thinking about your audience, because anyone who's there in Germany is obviously going to ask about Hurricane because they're in Germany, but no one cares that much about him compared to other African players when it comes to South Africa or the African continent.
That's wonderful. So would the Vincent Company interview be your favorite interview, or is there someone else that you've interviewed that you're like, I just enjoyed the banter that we had back and forth and kind of how they think and answer things?
It was also interviewing the Deputy Minister of Youth, Women, and people with disabilities in South Africa. I was shocked because in my head, politicians do not care about people rights. And when when you find out about things that a certain politician has done, like, the fights against HIV and AIDS in the Southern African parts of Africa, and the things that she's done in terms of your LGBTQ community, it was really interesting for me because to be honest, I always think politicians do not care about people. But I met her in another event, and I realized that she does a lot of initiatives way before she was appointed into that position. But she has done a lot of initiatives that make sure that women are included in tables where decisions are made. So it was Steve Letsike. I think she's brilliant, and I like the work that she does.
That's wonderful. Would you say she's the most surprising interview that you had, or most surprising?
It was surprising. Was surprising. I was waiting for, African politicians, you're always waiting for them to read a speech somewhere and they can't answer anything honestly. And I was just like, oh my God, this person really cares about what she's doing. I'm not even going to mention the political party she's part of, but I was just like, I was shocked. I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, as you say that, I'm like, we as Zimbabweans, we have ministers in portfolios where they don't actually even know how the thing that they are in charge of actually functions. So it's good to hear.
It's the same in South Africa. That's why I was shocked. I was like, you have actually, done policies on making sure that women are included in these tables. That is so interesting. So you do deserve this position. So I was shocked. I don't want to lie.
That's awesome. So between, De Classica, the Man United yearbook, Yanga Day in Tanzania, is there any behind the scenes story that fans would never normally hear, or even any interesting tidbits about any of those things that you're like, I don't know that anyone would know about this without me saying it?
Okay, so a lot of us Africans, we always think Africa is behind, right? In terms of like the women in the industry and things like that. And then I went to another city in Europe, and I've never in my life been in a media space, sports media space, where one, I'm the only Black person, but also I'm the only woman. Like I was shocked. I was just like, okay, I've never experienced this in my entire life. And it just shows you that, Africa does include women, even though we still have a long way to go when it comes to that. But I've never been in a space where journalists are like, from age 40 upwards. Like I've never seen that in my life. Like I was shocked. I don't want to lie. I was just like, okay, what's happening here?
Is that a country that you would want to visit again, or does it give you pause?
No, I would actually. I do go back to the country a lot. I just think that part of the country is like, it's still old men that work in journalism, and they still have print media and things like that. So I think it's because of that. But I was like, I've never experienced that. Even in like when I was starting out in South Africa, it was never like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they were actually very, very nice to me. So I'm not complaining, but it was just shocking. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating to think about. Given the rise of, TikTok and Instagram and, Facebook Reels, we have influencers that are actually probably getting more infamy or famous because of hot takes. Is it harder for you, or how do you keep yourself grounded and relevant, knowing that people are tuning in more to the noise than the actual content?
I think the most important thing for me is to remember the ethics of journalism, because sometimes, for example, I'm going to make an example that actually broke my heart. There's a player in South Africa that passed away after the World Cup.
Yes.
And I saw from a friend who works for another media company asking me, is this true? The player passed on at 11 and the news were out at 12. You are not allowed to do that. But obviously, as an influencer, you can do it. But you are not allowed to do that because it's an hour later. The family probably doesn't know. You wait for the association of that country and the club to release a statement. That means the family already knows, and then you can go about it. But also, even other journalists are now starting to work like influencers, where there's a publication that published the story an hour after it happened. And I think it was very heartbreaking. It was also very, very careless, because you cannot do that, especially when it comes to, with our, like sometimes you find people and they're like, oh, when someone passed on, when my family member passed on, I found out through social media. Yeah. Imagine finding out on a newspaper and you had no idea that had happened. So I feel like sometimes with the ethics that I have, I still don't feel intimidated by certain people, because it's like, okay, you're going to go with the breaking news and then I'm going to come with a certain context. But also I do learn from them, because they are not scared, to take content. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, taking content is draining and things like that.
Yeah.
So I do learn from them, but there are certain things that I cannot do as a journalist unless I've got two sides to a story, or I'm just, doing it for fun. So there are certain things that influencers can do that I cannot do and I will never do.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So do you feel that pressure to like news like that? Do you feel the pressure to be first, or are you, with your journalistic integrity, are going, I would rather be right and slower?
So, for example, when Thingy Adams passed on, I heard from this friend, and then I told my little brother, because obviously he's not going to post anything, he's not on social media. But other than that, I just kept it to myself, because also we work with Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. So had I posted on my Instagram stories, then the other players would have known already, when I should have just waited for the club to release a statement. So there are certain things that I can't cross boundaries on, especially if it affects people, I don't know. I wouldn't do it.
That's good. That's good to hear. So let's talk a little bit about African football. What excites you most about African football over the next decade? You spoke about how, especially in women's football, other countries are catching up to South Africa and Nigeria. Is there other themes around that, whether it's men's football, women's football, that excites you for Africa?
I think the one thing that excites me the most is in Africa right now, especially in women's football, even in men's football, we don't have teams that we say are leading, because look at what happened. I feel like Zimbabwe performed really well in the AFCON. It's just that you guys let yourselves down. I don't know how. That game still makes me angry. I don't want to talk about that.
We
I
let
don't want to talk
ourselves
about that.
down because someone put a handball and they wanted to guarantee their future in South African football.
I was just like, what is happening with Zimbabwe? But you know what? You know what? I feel like a lot of countries, a lot of federations in Africa are doing such a great job, and we don't know about it until we go to the men's AFCON or the women's AFCON. For example, Malawi beating Nigeria in the women's AFCON and then going on to reach the semifinal, automatically qualifying for the World Cup, things like that. But also it shows the growth of, and I want to give a shout out to the COSAFA region for the work that COSAFA specifically is doing for teams in the Southern African region. Because if you look at teams like Malawi, you look at teams like Zambia. I remember I met the head of women's football of Zambia when I was in Rwanda, and she was telling me that what they did is they also started scouting players from villages, and it shows with the growth of women's football in Zambia. I mean, the leading goal scorer in the Olympics currently is from Zambia. She's a woman's Barbara Banda. Breaking records like that. We got them like Barbara consistently, as well as Temwa being in the Ballon d'Or as well. It's just so amazing. And the growth of women's football has just been so inspiring, especially as a person who started. I remember when I interviewed Christy Uchebe, she was 19. She hadn't even made it to the Nigerian senior team, and now she's a key player in the Nigerian senior team. So the growth of women's football has just been, it's just been everything. But also not just in football, looking at how Namibia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa is going to be hosting the Cricket World Cup as well.
Right.
With them now, I also want to go to Victoria Falls anyways. So I'm trying to get something in cricket. But, looking at things like that happening, it just gets so inspired, because it seems our sports federations are doing a lot of work behind the scenes that we are seeing now that we are hosting, these world events.
That's awesome. So in terms of, you spoke about Malawi and the shock to beat, the Lady Super Eagles, I think is what they go by. Is there any other country? Do you think Malawi is doing the best job right now? Is there one country that you'd be like, if you're going to copy a country's development path, this is the country that I would go look at?
It's Ghana, definitely. Ghana has an interesting women's football league. And also Tanzania. Tanzania has a women's league that's growing, and we could see it when they played South Africa. I mean, South Africa is one of the leading countries in women's football in Africa, but Tanzania beat Africa because, like I'm saying, you play a team and then a year after, because of the work that the federation is doing, it's on another level. You look at Cameroon, you look at Cote d'Ivoire, all those countries are putting in the work. But also with Tanzania, even when it comes to men's football, I remember when I went to watch Young Africans, the brands, they are really investing in men's football in Tanzania. We even saw them, even though they didn't make it out of the group stages, but I think they performed really well in the AFCON as well. So it's things like that where federations are working behind the scenes, and then us who are not in that country can see it after.
Yeah, no, I want to double click on that because, we just watched the Men's World Cup this summer. It was the biggest one with 48 teams. And out of the 10 African teams, I think 9 got out of the group stages, which is very, very, it's props for Africa, because if you go back 30, 40 years, you have, the first African teams of the World Cup, like the Zaires, before it was the DRC, losing by 7 or 8 goals, and people being at their laughing stocks. And now people look at an African team on the schedule and they go, actually, we have to take this seriously. Senegal's coming, Cote d'Ivoire's coming, whoever it is, no one is looking at us as pushovers. So I would have to agree with that. So next year it's Brazil 2027 with the Women's World Cup. We will be looking forward to that. Is there that's a big event. Is there any sporting event that you have as a bucket list event that you're like, I would love to be there to cover this. I would love to be there in person?
It's definitely the 2027 Brazil World Cup. Okay. I'd love to be there in person. I am definitely going to make sure that I'm going to be there, to cover it. And then I'd also love to cover the Euros at some points, the women's Euros especially. Yeah. And then obviously the men's World Cup as well. And yeah, I think those are the events that I'd like to cover. And then the AFCON in East Africa. I love East Africa, the men's AFCON. So I think I'll definitely go there.
Okay, that's awesome. If FIFA was like, Nozi, you have a trump card. You can change one thing about this organization or about sports, about this sport in general. What's that one thing that you'd use your trump card on?
I think I'd use my trump card on developing more African coaches. So we've seen that African teams are no longer pushovers in the World Cup, men's World Cup as well as the women's World Cup. And what we hardly talk about is how most of the teams that are doing so well are actually coached by African coaches. And I believe that if we get more development of these coaches in the continents, they can do so well. I don't know what happens with players, but I feel like they really respect coaches if they're from their native country or if they're African. So I remember in the AFCON, I think when 8 teams were left, I think only one coach was not from the African continent. Yeah. So I think if I were to do anything, I'll just make sure everyone gets their B license.
Okay. That's great. That's awesome. I like that answer. I've dabbled in coaching. I'm not going to be anywhere. You know?
I'm also not a coach. My God, players are so frustrating. I'm sorry.
I can imagine. I coached my high school out of high school, and it was my brother who's on this podcast was one of those on the team. So it's hard to coach people that you know. Because they're like,
exactly.
What do you actually know? So
exactly. Yeah. And they arrive late, and they do it. Oh no, never.
That's amazing. Well, I want to finish our interview with kind of a fun segment. We'll call it rapid fire. So I'm going to give you like 2 options, and I want your first answer. You don't have to explain it. If you feel the need to explain it, you can. But it's just going to be quick. It's going to be quick. Quick categories, and you tell me who you prefer or who you think is better or what you think is better. Okay, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
The first one's a very easy one. Messi or Ronaldo?
Okay, can I explain?
Yes, please. Answer first and then explain.
Okay.
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
There was a time when I was growing up. Wait, I'm going to explain. There was a time when I was growing up and I really loved Messi. But now that I'm older, I've actually, there's a huge difference between talent and hard work. And I believe that this world was just made for hard workers. I'm not going to explain any further.
Yeah. Okay. They're crying in the comments, but we'll let it go. We're going to keep going. Premier League or Bundesliga?
The Bundesliga is the first league that gave me like an opportunity as an African reporter, so I'll go with them for now.
Okay. This one's make your own choice. Favorite stadium?
Santiago Bernabeu.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because it's the most beautiful stadium I've ever been in, like in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
I've been to 8 European stadiums. It's literally the best. I'm definitely going back in September.
Okay. It's not Old Trafford. Sorry, Man United fans. She's a Liverpool fan. She would never pick Old Trafford. Anfield's going to be higher than that. So just so you know. Okay.
Therefore, she's sensible.
Thank you, Nyasha. Okay. Dream interview.
Dream interview. My God. It will definitely be outside of football. It's Anthony Joshua.
Oh, okay. Are you a big boxing fan, or just do you like his life story? What attracts you to that?
I love his life story. So I read his life story, and he went. I think he was almost arrested at 18, and then he changed his life around, started boxing. He actually, because he was misbehaving, his mom sent him back to a boarding school in Nigeria, and then when he came back from Nigeria, then he started boxing. And then because of that, he became the world champion. But he started boxing, and I think a year later he had won at the Olympics. And one thing, I always take the mentality of players, and I think he's one of the people that have a very strong mentality. So
that's great.
And I also have a crush on him.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't have connections, but we'll try and get it. We'll try and get it out there. We'll see what we can do.
6'4" light guy.
I bet one of these guys knows someone.
You know what? He's the only light-skinned guy I like. I'm sorry.
That's amazing. Favorite football city?
Our favorite football city is Munich.
Okay. Okay. What about you made fun of this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Most underrated football nation.
Most underrated football nation. My God, I don't know.
Is it Malawi?
Not really.
Okay.
I
Okay,
think
wait. Let me modify the question, because we made fun of this question at the beginning, because what you said was, which I agree with, some of these countries, like our own countries, think we're football nations, but we're not. So what would you say makes a country a football nation?
I don't know. I feel like being a football nation, right? You should have won the AFCON at least once.
Okay.
At least once. So
Zimbabwe is
but
not a
also,
football nation, therefore. Let's
you know
just
what?
take it in,
Zimbabwe is a cricketing nation. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I think the most underrated football nation is Mali, actually.
Oh, okay.
They did really well in the AFCON, and they actually have been relevant even in the women's AFCON. So I think they are underrated, because we hardly talk about them, even when they did well in the AFCON. The problem with them is they don't score any goals. They just defend throughout. But yeah, they are. I think they're underrated.
Okay, Mali. VAR, keep it or scrap it?
Keep it.
Okay. What one football on-field rule would you add or remove?
I think football players should be allowed to take their shirts off.
that seems a little self-serving. I don't know. I don't know.
No, it's not. I just think, when you're excited and you don't know what to do, I think they should be allowed.
So no yellow cards for taking your shirt off is what you're saying?
No, it's too harsh.
Okay.
Maybe a warning.
Okay. We'll leave that one at that. What about what's one live sporting event everyone should experience at least once?
Sporting events, I think we should all experience the World Cup. I haven't yet. I think it's the one thing we all need to experience.
Okay. I mean, I live in the States and I didn't experience it this summer, but I will be in Morocco and Spain because those tickets are cheaper than the American.
Oh yes, they were very expensive.
They were very expensive. I had lots of friends that went, and I almost was like, let me just go to a game, but I think I'm going to save the powder for the next one. Okay. And then my last one for rapid fire. Who's the one journalist you admire?
One journalist I admire is Julia Stewart. She covers the Premier League. She was also covering the World Cup, the Men's World Cup in the US. And I think she's done so well. I remember I met her when I was still an intern. I was working at Super Sports. And she's done so well, man. She works really hard. I've always said she's one of the best journalists I've ever seen. And yeah, she's doing really well in England. Yeah,
that's great. Well, wonderful. Okay, so we'll bring the interview to a close. I've got a few questions here. What do you hope people remember most about your work?
I think they remember it for, I think I always try to make my work impactful, especially when I'm interviewing different women in the sports industry, because I feel like we don't cover women's sports a lot as well as disability sports. So I just want them to think it was impactful.
That's good. And what advice you've given advice throughout this interview, but what's a piece of advice that you would give to a young listener listening to this interview who's like, man, I love sports. I love being around sports. I might not be a player, but I want to be around it and report on it. What advice would you give someone that has that dream?
Okay, firstly, I was a horrible player. We had cricket at school, and I played cricket. I was horrible. But it's the one thing I've learned throughout my career is to believe in yourself. Like if you walk into any room and you believe in yourself, no one will doubt you because they actually don't know what you can do. Yeah, that's great. Well, Nozi, thank you so much for giving us your time, and I've been fascinated. We could chat for a much longer period of time, but I want to respect the time that we have together with you. But as we get on our way out, I want to finish this segment with the rest of these panelists who've been throwing questions into the chat. Guys, what are we watching this weekend? What is the one thing that everyone should watch this weekend? So we'll start with you, Tendakai. What do you have on your docket?
Okay, I'll say the WAFCON final, and let me keep it to one. The WAFCON final.
The WAFCON final, that's a good thing.
Let's go Malawi. Hopefully they make it.
Okay, all right. Ushe, what do you have?
I'm biased. I'm just enjoying the preseason friendlies. I want to see where the teams are.
Okay.
See how they're getting along, especially United, Tielemans and Santos. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying United versus Milan. Isn't that this weekend?
We should be playing, yeah. So Amarim, yeah, we should be playing. So I want to see how we do against Ruben. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that weekend. Wow, thank you very much. He's lost every game. He hasn't won a game so far. So if he wins against us, then that'll be interesting.
Okay, Yasha, what do you have for us this weekend?
I think just because of what O'Shea said, I'm going to hate watch Manchester United, so that they lose. Like I would be like, yeah, because O'Shea is a few yards away, and every time he's in turmoil, I enjoy it. Like I would drink the tears from his face.
That's ridiculous. Lwazi, what you got for us? What are we watching this weekend?
Listen, gentlemen, I'm going to bring it a bit home for myself here at the PSL. On Saturday, it's a big game. Mamelodi Sundowns take on Kaizer Chiefs. Kaizer Chiefs recently lost, and the fans are they're very cultish up at that club. So I look forward to the tears of Kaizer Chiefs fans this upcoming weekend for sure.
Tears, it's good, don't
Hey.
Go Pirates, go Pirates.
Amazing. Like you see when sometimes this guy is driving past me, I wave at him, and he's like, oh.
That's sports fandom for us. Nozi, what do you have for us to watch this weekend?
WAFCON final, definitely. I'm hoping Malawi is going to take it. I think we're all rooting for Malawi, guys. They're Southern African. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's go Malawi.
That's wonderful. I'm gonna be homerific and go. It's the curtain raiser for the Premier League season. So the Arsenal takes on Manchester City in the Community Shield. So I will be watching that. I will be watching the women's AFCON final. I do also hope Malawi makes it. I have a connection to Malawi with one of my friends whose daughter is from Malawi. So she's a soccer player as well. So it would be great for her to watch her country compete in the final for that. Nozi, as we go out, where can people follow your work? Where can we keep up with what you're doing, keep up with what you're writing, the places that you're touching down on? How do we do that?
Okay, you can follow me at Nozibusiso Sibiya. Tef is going to share my handle. I'm going to give it to him on Instagram as well as TikTok. On Facebook, I only have my village people, so I'm not very active on Facebook.
Yeah, no worries. Well, thank you so much.
People.
Yeah, supportive village people are always good.
The rest of us don't have village people.
That's because you're a city slicker. That's the problem. Well, thank you very much, guys. We've really enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you for giving us your time and telling us all the good things that we should be thinking about when it comes to football, women's football in Africa, and all sorts of things. So till the next episode, guys, we'll catch you on the flip side. It's been Chibhubhubhu.